Hi there, it's Fran Davidson from psychicandenergywork.com.au, and this video comprises my little add-on to the About Last Month section of my monthly observations for October 2024. This is all very much trial and error at the moment. I'm trying to mix up those observations on my website, psychicandenergywork.com.au, and move them away from just being text or words and integrate a video format. So hopefully, irrespective of whether you're visiting this video via the website or just via YouTube, it adds a bit of value for you. And if you are coming just via YouTube, it might be worth going through to psychicandenergywork.com.au, because I've written also an introductory spiel to accompany this video. It all sounds very complex, but I think I've got a good formula here. Can you please let me know how it comes across? So again, this video is just recapping on September 2024. Before I start that, I do want to observe that, hello, you can go through to the website, to the archive section, and have a look at what I did for last month, which really details September in just more. Trying to find words, yeah? So please feel free to do that, because my intention here is not to revisit all of those observations. It's just to preface and therefore introduce my observations for October 2024. So having said all of that, thank you very much for listening. What I want to touch upon very, very quickly is the fact that September's numerology brought a lot of 4s, it brought 9s, it brought a lot of 3s, it brought 7s and 8s, and it also brought a lower 1 and 2 count. So obviously numbers aren't all. Last month also popped astrologically. I'm not an astrologer, but people like Pam Gregory, Jessica Adams, even Jonathan Kainer can be really good in terms of reviewing these sorts of things, and I'm sure that you have your own experts to whom you defer as well. So in a sense, again, the numerology brought a lot of 4s. It brought 6 4s last month, and 6 4s is a lot. You know, even 3 4s can be a lot. And here I'm talking about the collective chart, not yours. So if you have 4s in your chart, whether that's be through your date of birth or through your birth name, or even the sum of those two things, then you would have been under the influence of even more 4s than 6. 4 can be the builder. 4 is all about building. It is also, therefore, about quality. Are we building with quality? Are we stepping with quality, approaching with quality, thinking, planning, assuming, expecting with quality? So 4 is very much about the tools that we use, in other words, the woodwork, the frameworks that we truck along through life with. And therefore, in one sense, it's about the assumptions, the expectations that we have when we walk into any moment, be that just waking up and starting a day, dealing with others, or dealing with, should we say, big events. Yeah. So 4 is very much about getting those foundations right, because, of course, everything that we experience is influenced by how we think and feel, and therefore how we project and how we approach, how we brace, how we enter into. So last month wanted us looking at those things, but it also, I found, it wanted to reinforce what was already in place on those levels in a really good sense. And numbers always do that. Life always does that. You know, if you've sort of been working with it, if you've sort of been doing the best you can, and that's your intention, life does tend to reinforce what's doing right and build on that. It doesn't just challenge, it doesn't just take away, even though some days it can feel like it, yeah? So 4 is also about awareness. But if I come back to that build aspect of 4 is a time that really wants us getting everything right, so that in doing that, we're building the right foundation, and from there, launching from that foundation in a really spiritually constructive, wonderful way in the next second. So 4 is about prep, getting everything prepared, solid, ready for takeoff. So the other aspect to last month were the 5 3s. Now, this is interesting because, again, last month, as you may see on my website in the introductory blurb to this video, I also mentioned the fact that the chart was also carrying 3 7s and 3 8s. So when you've got 3, 4, 7, and 8 all at 3 times or more in a chart, what that's pointing to is the mental realm, all that we do on the mental realm to get us ready for success, for progress, for movement forward, however we do it, consciously or not, clumsily or not. So 3 in the numerological cycle, in part, is a time for realizing. It's a time for intuiting, and therefore, not because I'm saying intuiting is only happens at 3, but 3 is very much communication to self, with others, to others, with life in general, but also to the divine, to the universe, whatever it is that you refer to that should be the highest point and the biggest view. So 3 is a time that is about receiving guidance, receiving insights, receiving confirmation, new ideas, and therefore clarity. 4 is a time, having done that, 4 is a time that we start to plan and prepare and build with that, get ready with that, as I've just outlined. But 4 is also a time when awareness blossoms. So if I put those 2 stages together, 3 is when the light bulb goes on. 4 is the time when, having had a few moments with that light bulb moment, it's like, okay, I get it. So 4 is understanding. 4 is the birth or the furtherance of understanding and awareness in a sense that makes us a very theoretical expert. Now, what do I mean by that? There are 9 numbers in the cycle. 4 is the time when we first start to really get things. It's a bit like, I often use this analogy with people, it's a bit like the university graduate, and it doesn't have to be university, does it? It can be the graduate of any course. I've learned something, I've realised something, I understand it, but I don't necessarily have the street cred yet. I don't necessarily have the practical mileage to really get it on every angle, in every sense. So that doesn't make 4 a lesser number than a later period, but this is where 7 comes in, because 4 is understanding. I understand, I can start to plan and prepare and build with that. 5 is a time when you put it into action, and therefore you bump about, you get bruised. You with me? You succeed. You learn more through practical doing reality. 6 is a time when you sit back, you reflect on that, you digest, and therefore you make way for 7, which is the moment where we not only understand, we truly get it. And again, the joy, okay, so bear with me, let me continue on that basis. 8 then is the time where, having truly got everything that we've travelled through on that particular concept with regard to that particular theme or issue or question, even mystery, having done that, then we move into 8, which is that point where we are able to use all of that experience and know-how, wisdom, not just our own, but also our intuitive wisdom, that which comes from our guidance, hopefully in a way that's really good quality guidance, Through doing that, we're then able to really hone our sense of what we're here for, what we're ready for, what we need to do next, and therefore our vision overall, and how we're going to get about fulfilling that in to the next degree, in the next moments, however we do. So in a sense, do you see, in the way that I've run through all of that, September was definitely a month that wanted to help people, you could say, I want to use the word, for some reason it pops in now, internalize. But I don't mean that as a negative thing. It's almost like internalize. In other words, integrate all of those sorts of themes personally for them. You with me? In a way that really started to place things better, add clarity, add certainty, and also quite possibly heal and offer relief and release on earlier moments of this year, which of course for many of us has been an absolute doozy. The other joy of last month, touching on this very quickly, is again the 1 and 2 count were lower than they have been in years. Yeah, that's not to say that 4-1s and 6-2s haven't presented for the time that I've just mentioned, yeah? But 4-1s is quite low relative to where we've been recently. So is 6-2s. That doesn't make a higher count bad, but when numbers increase in a tally, in other words, 10 2s rather than 6 2s, the pressure around that number, around that aspect of spiritual development can start to increase. Now, 1 is me, as in you, as in self. Yeah, 1 therefore introduces lessons in selfness, selfishness, whether that be constructive or not. With me, you can have selfishness that is very much, I'm looking after myself. I'm taking care of myself in balance with everything else. Yeah. 1 can also be selfishness in a way that there's too much self-focus going on, whether it's mine, as in the person who's saying that or observing it, or whether it's somebody else outside of them, or just life in general, the themes of the collective, the themes of community, too much self-focus. Yeah. 2 is a time that helps us go out with our knowledge of self and selfness, and therefore how to live with it, how to interact with selfness as a dynamic, whether that's coming through ourselves, other people, physical beings, even animals, yeah, or whether it even comes through the invisible world. Yeah, because egoic self is a dynamic, just as spiritual self is. It's an energy. It's not just a physical form or a dynamic that is channeled through a physical being or form. So the fact that these 2 vibes were less, in a sense, it took the focus off these aspects. And I'd argue that this year has been very much a time of real challenges to self and self-knowledge, self-awareness, yeah, but also personal development, of course. Yeah, it's also been a time when the world around us has been just going off in a way that, hello, what is my place in this world? What is this world now? How do I fit? How do I cope? How do I deal with it? How do I move forward? So those lower 2 and 1 counts also pulled back some of the tension, pressure, disturbance, even excitement on those aspects in a way that allowed these other dynamics that I was working through before, the 3, the 4, the 7 and the 8, to really become louder. Yeah. And in a sense, therefore, that could also explain why, to the degree that you experience this in your world during September 2024, it's why last month in one way wasn't as jarring. Even though that's really easy to say in a first world country, in a suburb where there's no war, there's no hunger, there's no drought, there's no famine. So I'm not trying to say that those things still don't exist. And yet, through those dynamics, through any dynamic, we come to a better place in time. That's not making light, that's not losing respect for or losing sight of the importance for more peace, more harmony, etc. But we learn often through what is not right. We often come to practically implement, represent, and make sure that we deliver on what is right through first experience, what is totally not. So all the very best for the rest of these observations, because they're going to come in 3 more snippets, 1 being the birth number, about October 2024, 2 being the birth name of October 2024, and 3 the reality number, which is the sum of those 2 things. So there are 3 more videos on YouTube to watch if you're interested to make up this series. Then there's also therefore 3 more segments on my website in the monthly observations page for each of those areas. Feel free to keep journeying with me on this right now or later. Hopefully again it adds value. Let me have your feedback. All the very best to you, and thanks for tuning in.